I obsessed over a girl I never met, watched her decline, and ultimately outed her secret life to her friends and family. Shocking. This may be lengthy, so prepare yourself. Please excuse any grammatical mistakes, as I am not a native English speaker. I have never encountered her face to face. It involves a case of internet attraction mixed with fixation. It all began in the middle of 2022. I was browsing a Facebook group looking for new rental properties when I came across a post made by this girl who was seeking a rental. I took a moment to look at her profile. She seemed like a neat girl next door type, in her mid-20s and new to the city from a rural area. She's a local model with a follower count in the mid-4 digits, who made the move to the city after the COVID pandemic. Additionally, she works part-time as a Pilates instructor. She is quite fit, tall, and has a somewhat masculine physique. While she may not be the most conventionally attractive person, perhaps a plain 7, or an 8 with makeup, she appeared very genuine in her photos. I briefly fantasized about her, but I was in a relationship at the time, so I dismissed it. I added her on Instagram to keep an eye on her and possibly establish a connection in the future. I did not view her stories. I simply browsed her photos, which showcased a lovely family and a close circle of friends. Her Facebook page mainly featured her modeling aspirations and the milestones she achieved along the way. Then, in late 2022, I began watching some of her stories intermittently. She was expanding her social circle and was quite active in the nightlife scene, going out to upscale venues with influential people and engaging in typical tourist activities throughout the city such as events, concerts, and dining. She appeared genuinely happy. I was still involved with my girlfriend at that time, for what it's worth. By early to mid-2023, I had ended my situationship. I began exploring, following, and messaging various girls on Instagram and trying out online dating. However, my interest in this girl remained passive. For some reason, as mid-2023 came around, perhaps due to excessive fantasizing or obsessively staring at her pictures, stronger feelings started to develop within me. I usually have a strong character regarding these matters. Then, I saw a few of her stories featuring dates with people from different states, along with her ongoing nightlife escapades. However, I had no real insight into her full life since I was resisting the urge to watch her stories. By the way, she consistently had multiple stories posted around the clock, akin to a reality show. By August 2023, after observing her stories featuring a guy multiple times during evenings out and daytime dates, I concluded that she must have entered into a relationship and completely dismissed any thoughts of her. I stopped checking her stories and avoided her profile altogether. Yet I still found myself fantasizing about her, and then, that something nagged at my mind. It prompted me to visit her profile again in December 2023. I was stunned to discover that she had deleted all her previous images. All candid, family, and friend images were gone. Instead, she began sharing professional shots daily from September 2023, starting with a post that stated, "Rebranding." By December, I noticed she had about 20 professional images. I was taken aback. Why would someone do such a thing? All the positive aspects I had previously noticed seemed erased. At that point, I began to focus on her stories more intently since her changes piqued my curiosity. She was reveling in a party lifestyle, indulging in expensive experiences such as caviar and champagne, frequently traveling to other states, dining at prestigious restaurants, and staying in luxurious accommodations. Additionally, her Instagram was constantly updated beforehand with details about her interstate visits, including the dates and locations. She picked up some modeling gigs, but they were modest, mainly local campaigns and mostly time for print work. I didn't connect the dots at the time. She began making frequent trips to another big city, sometimes for just 24 hours. Meanwhile, she completely revamped her Instagram. She added her old professional photos and only occasionally included airbrushed candid images. There wasn't a single post featuring friends or family, and certainly no images showcasing hobbies or activities. Something shifted in early 2024, and her social activities with friends dwindled. In fact, it appeared she lost contact with them. I discovered a mutual contact from one of her former friends, but she hesitated to divulge too much. She simply mentioned, "We lost touch," leading me to believe there may have been issues among them. My interest in her waned as she exhibited quite a few red flags. I stopped being so observant of her stories. I also found another mutual male friend whom she had cut from her life, and he only remarked, "She has issues that no one knows about. I believe she is a good girl at heart." By the early part of 2024, she had completely relocated to another big city. She primarily posted daily content, like walks and pilates, in her stories. I only glanced at her stories occasionally since she had moved out of my city. She announced a summer trip to Europe on Instagram in April, and at that point, I ceased checking her stories. Her first image in Europe appeared in my feed. It featured her at the Monaco Grand Prix in a suite at the Hotel de Paris Monte Carlo. The subsequent posts showcased a 150-foot yacht in the south of France, a golf tour in the Swiss Alps, beautiful shots from Lake Como, and more, all occurring within 6 weeks. Afterward, she spent a month in Berlin and another month in London. There was still no one else featured in her photos, just her alone. Meanwhile, she continuously reposted her old professional photos from 7-8 years ago alongside vacation images. I had not viewed any stories since she moved to the new city. I still couldn't connect the dots. There was a suspicious old man who liked all her posts since her rebranding in late 2023, but I dismissed him as merely someone she had met casually. I began casually dating a new girl, but she still occupied my thoughts. After a 4-month elaborate summer in Europe, she returned to her new city for good. I still hadn't viewed a single story since May 2024. She started posting very revealing photographs showcasing her physique, along with images of luxurious dinners, jewelry, designer items, and more. She also continued to intersperse her old professional images, even as she had gained quite a bit of weight in the past 2 years, struggling to secure campaigns, with a softer jawline, emerging double chin, and a belly that spoke volumes in her candid shots. We all know how women tuck in their stomachs. Sadly, she seemed to have lost her once striking beauty in just over a year. She began sharing peculiar reels promoting subpar startups, while also revisiting her Euro trip in her posts, as she seemed to lack new content to share, indicating that nothing of significance was happening in her life. In her new posts, there were still no friends to be seen, aside from one girl featured in 25-30 posts, which indicated her isolation. Somehow, by late 2024, I started piecing things together. Modeling jobs at her level pay very little, and personal training and pilates barely cover her expenses, so how is she sustaining this lavish lifestyle? I began watching her stories again in December. Nothing significant appeared to be happening in her life. There was little that could be considered interesting. She posted about beaches, coffee outings, and picturesque scenes, often replicating her feed posts for promotion. She hadn't posted any stories past 5 p.m. That's when I revisited the idea of that old man. Yes, she seemed to be involved with a 65-year-old, 5'5", overweight ultra-high net worth individual to sustain her lifestyle since she rebranded. I discovered she had also entertained another wealthy older man over New Year's, based on the new followers and the penthouse location of her photos. By Christmas, she unfollowed most of her old friends from the big city. Her social circle appeared to have diminished, and her engagement rate on posts hovered around 1%, which is rather low for a personal account under 10,000 followers. I found another friend she had removed from her life by Christmas. She merely remarked, "I wasn't close to her, didn't lose anything. I don't know what's been going on." I later discovered that this girl is Instagram friends with our sugar daddy, indicating she may have introduced her to him. Starting January 1st, she began posting nearly every day for attention. Some images were old, some were new, and some were low-quality time for print shots alongside mediocre "get ready with me" reels. In her stories, again, nothing interesting appeared. By mid-January, I realized she had lost her closest male friend. In mid-January, she returned to our city for the first time since her departure for an important sporting event that weekend. She traveled business class, stayed at the Ritz, dined at the newest, most lavish venues, had a prime seat at the event, and flaunted luxurious accessories such as an LV bag and Gucci shoes. Interestingly, our sugar daddy happened to be in the city at the same time. Our sugar daddy's profile is private, but I managed to gain access with a fake profile in late 2024. Now, everything started to connect. The interstate travels, the absence of a boyfriend, and the lack of people in her images, it all made me furious. The country girl next door is engaged in a relationship with a 65-year-old man for financial gain, luxurious vacations, and designer goods in her quest for a high life. I reached out to a mutual friend of hers, the one she had recently lost, and he explained how he ended their friendship. He sensed a lot of negativity from her, noting she became very absorbed in the lifestyle that our girl next door promoted. He indicated he had received bad energy from her, suggested that she attempted to use him over money, and expressed concern regarding her lifestyle choices. He was aware of her activities and had tried to warn their friend to be cautious, as he stated she was heavily using cocaine, involved with older men for cash and substances. Our sugar daddy seemed to finance her lifestyle as her main sponsor, while she was engaging with men her own age for validation and drugs. It became clear she had no friends, was medicated, and had not worked since returning from her Euro trip. Her life was essentially non-existent. He shared everything candidly, and I relayed all I had pieced together during my investigation. He stepped away from her life because his friend did not want to heed his warnings. I felt a wave of rage and sadness wash over me, knowing yet another country girl had become lost in a big city. I contacted everyone within her circle of friends to provide updates. I reached out to all the acquaintances I had within the city's elite to expose her. I had first-hand knowledge of her entertaining various individuals for money and drugs when she was still in my city throughout 2023 and early 2024. I could not accept these revelations. I also contacted her modeling agency because she had repeatedly shared concerning content that hinted at her substance use on her stories. Following this, she began posting increasingly bizarre content with veiled messages. It was clear her agency eventually intervened. After I reached out to several connections in the city, it was evident that she caught wind of this, and soon afterward, I found myself blocked. I attempted to contact her sister without divulging too much, simply inquiring whether they had considered how she supported her lifestyle, and bombarding her with 15 straightforward questions that even a fifth grader could understand. I refrained from fully exposing her to her family, especially seeing that her father has a tattoo of her name on his chest, but I am reasonably certain that tensions must be rising due to the fact that she hasn't posted anything in 3 days or any stories in 2 days. I do not regret my actions. I do not love her. I have simply developed a habit of keeping tabs on her. All I feel now is emptiness. I am at a loss for what to do next, how to break free from this habit as the truth has come to light. She is in a problematic situation, and I am struggling with this fixation. I need to move forward in my life and dedicate more time to my own relationships, but becoming so invested in someone I have never met in person is incredibly exhausting. I just hoped she would find her way back to a normal life. Yes, I acknowledge that I may be somewhat sociopathic in this regard. Story 2. Texting my closest friend, tensions flared, revealing unspoken struggles. In the end, she admitted it was just her mental health at play. This is a text exchange between myself and my closest and only friend. We have maintained our friendship for many years, and I struggle to express how significant she is to me. Recently, she has been acting oddly in our messages, which led to the following discussion when I inquired about it. Typically, she is not this unkind, and I genuinely do not believe I am in the wrong in this situation. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't second-guess myself, but since I trust and care for her deeply, I am confident she wouldn't deceive me. I simply want to determine if either of us is being unreasonable. These are our only messages, and since we have not met in person during this time, all the context is contained here. I would share screenshots, which would certainly make it easier, but this forum does not permit that, so I am copying and pasting the content instead. Me, are you all right? You appear to be acting differently. Friend, I do not wish to discuss it. Me, okay, whatever it is, I hope it improves. I love you, all right? Friend, whatever. Note this hurt deeply, as she has always reciprocated when I express my love for her throughout our years of friendship. Me, is it something I have done? You don't have to disclose what's bothering you, but I do want to know if it relates to me. Friend, it's everything and nothing, and I can't discern what aspects of my distress are valid and what is completely irrational, and I do not want to be unpleasant about something that isn't even genuinely occurring. Me, could you at least inform me what it is so I could clarify if you are? Friend, if it's accurate, You're going to lie to me and claim it isn't because you've never considered it and realized it's happening, so just drop it. Friend, that drop it was unkind. I didn't mean it. You are trying to be kind, and I shouldn't respond with rudeness. Me, all right. Well, I can tell you that you are being somewhat unkind right now since you are presuming I will lie to you when I really don't behave that way. Friend, I did not say you were doing it deliberately. Read the entirety of the message. Me, it wouldn't be a lie if I genuinely believed what I was saying. Friend, why are you fixating on that? I used one incorrect term, sue me. Friend, this conversation is becoming harsh, and I do not want to be mean to you. Friend, I love you. Me, you are lashing out because something is troubling you. I can't assist you unless I understand what it is. If you aren't ready to share, that's completely acceptable. I love you. I'm here for you, and you won't drive me away. Friend, if you truly cared, you would know what is bothering me. Me, we both understand that isn't correct. Friend, no, we do not. Friend, you cannot decide for me. Friend, I feel guilty about how I am communicating with you, but I cannot stop expressing myself unless I stop talking altogether. Me, I have to tell you that it is unkind of you to assume that I must know your every thought and concern to care. But I won't attempt to demonstrate how much I care, because I know you're not going to believe me regardless of what I say at this moment. I will give you the space to do what you need. I'm unsure what you require from me, but I am willing to provide it if you simply inform me. Friend, it's not a thought or a concern. It's a genuine mental health issue. Friend, I am not an unkind individual. Friend, I am exhausted, and I am entitled to being tired. Me, I cannot provide a meaningful response while you are acting this way, so I will give you some space. I love you. Good night. Approximately 2 hours later, friend, I apologize. About 2 hours later, I have fallen asleep by this point. Friend, what would you like me to do to apologize and make this disappear? 2 hours later, friend, I am no longer upset, and I promise that I will not snap at you. 3 hours, friend, I have never loved a character more immediately than Party Pat. 3 hours, friend, trying to stay awake so I do not wake up in the dead of night. 2 hours, me, what transpired would be a good starting point. Friend, I meant what I said about not wanting to discuss it. 3 hours pass without a response from me. I was irritated and uncertain of what to say. Friend, I know you are still upset with me. Please do not ignore me. Friend, it truly hurts my feelings when you ignore me. I feel like I am a nuisance, and that it is a burden for you to converse with me. I know you would never intentionally hurt me, so could you please inform me why you are not texting me back, or at least tell me if you won't be responding for a while? Me, I just don't know how to engage with you as though nothing transpired. Friend, I do not expect you to do that. I just prefer not to discuss what was troubling me before the argument. Me, so what would you like me to say? Friend, I do not need you to say anything in particular. I hope to have a transparent and candid conversation so we can move forward together. Me, you are the one choosing not to be honest with me, so I do not know what you desire. Friend, how am I doing that? Me, I requested to know what happened, and you stated you weren't going to share. Friend, I do not wish to reveal something that occurred before our argument. That does not equate to refusing to be honest, and I do not comprehend how that would prevent us from addressing a different situation. Me, that's not what I inquired about, but I understand how it may have seemed that way. I meant what happened regarding your behavior. Is the answer the same? Friend, it is indeed the same reply. In fact, nothing significant actually occurred. I was just irritable for no understandable reason. Nothing negative happened to me. Me, so it was more of a mental pathway you ventured down rather than a specific action. Friend, yes, if I had experienced an event, I would have no issue sharing it with you, but this is a more complicated thought that is harder to articulate and more daunting to disclose. Me, why is it frightening? Friend, it is something immensely vulnerable and intricate. I do not believe I could express it in the appropriate terms that wouldn't elicit a negative reaction from you. Me, that makes more sense. I truly wish you would share it because it would likely ease this entire conversation, but I can only view it through my lens, so I harbor no resentment. Friend, on a related note, I had an issue with our argument since I felt you were disregarding my boundaries by urging me to reveal what was wrong after I communicated multiple times that I did not want to. I feel that I did not convey that effectively during the moment, and that I texted impulsively instead of taking a moment to reflect, leading to my rudeness, for which I apologize. Me, I sought to have you tell me because I didn't perceive any other alternative to finding a resolution, and if I had behaved poorly, I needed to be aware of it. I sincerely do not believe I was in the wrong for that. Friend, I did not want a resolution. I did not wish to discuss it at all, and it made me feel like my preferences were less significant and that your desire to assist me took precedence over my comfort. Friend, you are not wrong for wanting to assist me, but you disregarded my wish for you to leave it be. Me, you must recognize how anxious I was, though. I do not wish for you to feel guilty, but I believe it is crucial for you to understand that I was genuinely having a panic attack while trying to comprehend what in the world was transpiring. I had no insight into why everything suddenly felt so distressing, and my focus was on trying to restore normalcy. Naturally, I wanted to assist you, but I also wanted to help myself. Friend, I was unaware that you were having a panic attack, and I can understand how that could have clouded your judgment and influenced your actions, but that does not change the fact that it still negatively impacted me. I feel that prioritizing getting back to normal is somewhat dismissive. If I were in your position, I would have aimed to prioritize your feelings and well-being over my own discomfort during the situation, and I thought you would do the same for me. Friend, sometimes I may not be okay, and that's normal for me. I need you to accept that. Me, I am unsure how I could have handled that situation any better. I do not believe you would have reacted positively to anything I could have said, regardless of the content, and that is why I ceased communicating. I cannot accept you saying something like, "If you cared, you would know what's wrong." If I were to accept that, you might come to believe that such a statement is acceptable, and it truly is not. I love you, but you were unkind to me when I was trying my utmost to be compassionate and just. I cannot apologize for doing what I thought was right with the information I had at the time. Friend, yet, you didn't. The information you possessed indicated that something was amiss, and I did not wish to discuss it, yet you opted to continue discussing it regardless of what I said. I need you to acknowledge that it escalated to that point because you overlooked my needs in favor of your own. I believe that using the term cruel is not only inappropriate, but it is also painful and shifts all the blame onto me while avoiding accountability for yourself when we both hurt each other. We both made mistakes, and it wounds me even more that you are not only unwilling to apologize for disregarding my needs for your own and referring to me as a bitch, but also declining to acknowledge that you did something wrong. Friend, it seems you believe that what is the best course of action is whatever would best serve you, rather than finding a compromise to spare us both from excessive pain. Me, you do not have the authority to dictate what I think is best. I have stated that I do not lie to you, and I do not, so I will not apologize when I do not genuinely feel that way. You said, "I do not want to talk about it," and I immediately respected that. I asked you one more time and expressed 2 additional times that it was okay and that you didn't have to disclose anything. I do not think it is reasonable to claim I coerced you when I made it clear repeatedly that you didn't have to share. I believe you should have told me, and I refuse to falsely state that I haven't made that known, but every time I suggested it would be better if you expressed it, I also added that it was perfectly fine if you chose not to. I communicated my viewpoint. That is not coercion. I was trying to comprehend what was happening while also safeguarding myself from someone who was exhibiting unkind behavior, as that is the term I believe defines it. I will say that I regret that you were hurt. That was never my intention. However, I do not believe it is my fault that occurred. Friend, this message comes across as angry and defensive, which will not be conducive to resolving this, so I will respond carefully without placing blame as I previously have. I have never attempted to dictate anything for you. Offering my opinion about the situation is not the same as making a decision for you. It is simply sharing my perspective so we can better understand one another. It troubles me that you feel no remorse for hurting me, and phrasing it as, "I'm sorry you got hurt," minimizes my feelings and paints them as irrational and inexplicable, rather than acknowledging that there was a clear cause your words, even though it was unintentional. Although you did state I didn't have to share anything, you persisted in discussing the topic, which is exactly what I requested to avoid. I know you believe I should disclose it, but I personally know that it would be challenging, painful, and damaging for me, as I am not prepared for that. I was indeed unkind, impulsive, and irritable, but I was not cruel. I did not intend to harm you, nor was I indifferent about it, as indicated by my messages immediately after the ones in which I was rude, expressing my regret for how I communicated with you. You are aware that when you label me cruel, it pains me. I have shared that in this very conversation, and I don't comprehend how calling me a bitch could in any way serve to protect you from me. I don't understand how that statement was meant to achieve anything other than hurting my feelings, but I am working to trust that you would not harm me intentionally because you love me, just as I would never do that to the people I care about. Just because your actions were not deliberate does not mean they were without consequence. When I tell you that you have hurt me, it is not an invitation to debate my pain. It is merely a statement of fact. It feels as though you are attempting to dismiss this situation by labeling me as irrational and unkind, when I have already apologized several times for the part I admit I played in this. This conversation is incredibly disheartening and distressing for me, and I feel as though you should take a moment to step back and assess it as a series of actions rather than an emotionally charged dispute, as I have, so you can understand my perspective and perhaps believe me when I say that you hurt me, and I truly regret that I hurt you. Friend, I love you, and I do not wish to argue with you or cause you distress, but we did have a conflict, and I did upset you, and I am upset as well. Me all right, let me take some time to reflect. I love you too. If you have managed to read through all of that, I appreciate you. That was quite a lengthy exchange. I will respond to any inquiries as long as they are not too personal for either of us. Story 3. I got my branch manager fired, securing promotions for 4 guards instead. We went from frustrated workers to in-house security champs. I was employed as a security officer for an average security firm, but we were hired by a petrochemical corporation to provide security at their global headquarters. This company ranks among the Fortune 500 and generates billions annually. Consequently, our contract required us to manage security for all their sites within the United States, while other firms were responsible for locations abroad. This account was valued at approximately 30 million United States dollars each year. I began working for the company in March, and everything appeared to be going well. My hours were quite manageable, 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. I spent the majority of my time handling paperwork and checking in other contractors and delivery personnel. In truth, it felt like a pretty good position. The pay was not exceptional, but it was hard to complain when the job primarily involved sitting for lengthy periods. However, we soon encountered a staffing issue. Employees were either resigning or being dismissed far too quickly. We were supposed to have about 15 security officers, but fell to as few as 9. This does not include the 3 veteran officers employed by the client company, as they were separate from our team, which is crucial later on. This situation resulted in dreadful scheduling. During a 26-hour stretch, I worked for 20 hours, which I later discovered was illegal in our state, and we often piled on 60-hour weeks. Every single guard was logging overtime, which wreaked havoc on our personal lives. My girlfriend even mentioned that she was contemplating leaving me because throughout the week, I would see her for barely an hour each day before falling asleep, despite us living together. It was evident that some compensation was necessary. While overtime pay was reasonable, we desired an overall raise. The wages we received were insufficient given our workload of 70 hours per week and 12 to 16-hour shifts. Each location had a supervisor assigned through the contractor company, and every group of facilities had a branch manager overseeing specific accounts for the regional manager. Although the branch manager was expected to visit each facility once a month, there are 3 locations in his region under the account. I only saw him twice during my year with the company. Allegedly, the client company had considerable influence in the state, so the security firm acted almost like a subordinate, attempting to maintain as much distance as possible within legal boundaries. The problems began when one of the guards, let's refer to him as Roy, started discussing how his friend at a sibling site and his fellow guards had received raises due to being short-staffed, and the company wanted to show appreciation for their extra efforts. This infuriated many of the guards. We were in a far worse situation staffing-wise and worked at the global headquarters, yet not one of us had even been mentioned for a raise. This led to widespread demotivation among the guards and caused many to refuse extra shifts. Consequently, one of the senior guards decided to contact the branch manager to express our dissatisfaction, questioning why the sibling site received raises when we did not. It turned out to be more of a rant than a constructive discussion. But by the end of the conversation, the branch manager assured him he would look into the possibility of securing raises for us and would speak with the regional manager about it. When this news spread through the facility, it became a hot topic among the guards. We discussed our excitement over potential raises, and the branch manager had also promised that new guards would be brought in to alleviate the burden, thus eliminating the 60-plus-hour workweeks. For about 48 hours, our morale was high. Upon arriving at work early one Thursday morning, I discovered an email sent to all security guards, with our branch manager copied in it, a rare occurrence. The email read as follows. Hello, as you are all aware, several rumors have been brought to my attention, and I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone not to engage in this kind of behavior in the future. Going forward, please direct all concerns to your immediate supervisor for proper handling. Spreading rumors and creating panic will be viewed as generating an uncomfortable or hostile work environment. Disciplinary action will be pursued. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this matter, feel free to reach out. Additionally, please ensure that your focus while on site is aligned with our mission. We must concentrate on providing the client with outstanding service. We were enraged. It was clear we were being informed that we would not be receiving any raises, and the branch manager dismissed the idea of the sibling site getting raises as mere rumors. Roy was reprimanded for allegedly causing a panic, and since the senior guard had bypassed the supervisor to speak directly to the branch manager, he was threatened with potential termination. Everyone was utterly shocked, and one of the older guards quit on the spot. The company had effectively deceived us and made promises they had no intention of fulfilling, while we had no legal means to prove anything. Thus began our retaliation. We had access to the phone numbers for the sibling site, but were unaware of who the supervisor was there. I asked Roy for the name of his friend, who had worked there, to see if I could reach out to him. Unfortunately, he had recently resigned to join the Air Force. I felt at a loss but didn't want anyone to suffer at the hands of a company simply because we were the underdogs. So, I decided to take a chance, and using the office phone, called the client of the sibling site. The operator answered, and I explained that I was a guard at the headquarters and needed to speak to their site supervisor. The operator kindly connected me. Frank answered, and I introduced myself and the purpose of my call, directly asking if the sibling site had received raises. They did, and even more than that. Not only did all their guards receive raises, including Frank, but they also received bonus checks for their hard work. I was taken aback. I was torn between feeling outraged over how we had been treated and relieved that Roy and the senior guard were not fabricating stories. I calmly inquired, "Can I get that in writing?" The next morning, I requested a meeting with the branch manager, the site supervisor, the client, and 3 guards willing to attend. This included myself, Roy, the senior guard, and another guard who was kept in the loop. The branch manager was irritated by this meeting and demanded to know the purpose. The senior guard and I explained that we were there to address the lies told to employees and the threats we faced due to our desire for fair compensation, just like the sibling site. We made it clear that all 4 of us would resign if this issue was not resolved. Client, what are they discussing? Branch manager, we have clarified that the rumors have been addressed and no promises were made. This meeting is concluded. Operator, not so swiftly, sir. One other person wishes to speak with you. In walked our knight in shining armor, Frank. We watched in amusement as the branch manager's face turned pale. He stood in silence, clearly caught off guard. Frank smiled almost triumphantly, fully aware of the reckoning that was about to unfold. Client, who is this? Frank, I am the site supervisor for your other facility. I possess documentation showing that the branch manager misled you about my guards receiving raises, along with a recorded phone call, as all calls from company phones are monitored, that has the branch manager stating he would seek raises for this site's guards. At this point, I was speechless. I had no idea how he obtained a copy of the conversation between the senior guard and the branch manager, but he was holding the transcript. The client shifted from confusion to anger, glaring at the branch manager, who remained still as a statue, now visibly shaken, while our site supervisor glared at him with palpable rage, largely because he had been the recipient of the branch manager's falsehoods. Branch manager, how did you client? You are right. Branch manager, this meeting is no longer about you. Please leave my office. The branch manager cast a look of defeat at me and the senior guard before sulking out. Client Frank, I would like to see what you have. Frank presented all the evidence, and the client spent about 5 minutes reviewing it. After closing the booklet, he turned to the site supervisor. Were you aware of this? The site supervisor explained that he was merely following orders and did not question what he was told. Having a military background made this narrative plausible. Subsequently, the client instructed all of us to leave and ensured we would receive payment for our missed shifts while mandating our return at 7 a.m. the following morning for a meeting in the conference room. We arrived the next day, greeted by the client and another young woman whom he introduced as the financial manager for the entire company. The branch manager was also present, though seated at the opposite end of the conference table. The financial manager began by apologizing for the branch manager's conduct, explaining that they disapproved of such behavior. However, due to his contractor status, they lacked the legal means to hold him accountable. The branch manager appeared somewhat relieved by this, and I admit my heart sank slightly at the moment. She mentioned that we could file reports against him, which they would verify, but could not take any action beyond that. Then the financial manager introduced her significant, but she proposed that we could transition to working directly for the client as in-house security rather than as contractors. She indicated that they would employ all 4 of us immediately, allowing us to start the following day. This arrangement would come with full benefits, a substantial salary increase over $20 an hour, and 6 weeks of annual vacation. However, she emphasized that the offer would only stand while we were in the room. The branch manager seethed, having now lost 4 guards. Naturally, we all accepted. However, she made it clear that we weren't officially hired until the meeting concluded. The financial manager then addressed the branch manager, explaining that, because 4 guards had just resigned, he was now in severe violation of the contract due to insufficient staffing, and that they were invoking the break clause to terminate the account with immediate effect. The branch manager attempted to argue, claiming that poaching contractors with the intent of invoking a break clause was illegal, which indeed it was. Her response was something along the lines of, "Financial manager, you are correct, which is why these gentlemen are not currently our employees. They left voluntarily and are unemployed. Given this severe contractual violation, we will be addressing this matter here and now." The branch manager was left speechless by the cunning loophole the client had just exploited. He was also informed that should they elect to pursue legal action, they would be permitted to present evidence regarding the contractor company's deceitfulness and blatant lies to its staff. For the next 4 hours, the client and the financial manager conducted phone calls while we remained confined to the room. After finishing their calls, the client turned to the branch manager and spoke firmly but calmly, "Please step outside with me for a moment," gesturing for myself and the senior guard to follow them. We exited the room, and the client smiled at us. Senior guard, would you kindly escort the branch manager off-site? His company is no longer affiliated with us." We willingly escorted him to his vehicle. 3 years have passed since this incident, and all 4 of us still work there. We heard from another guard that the branch manager was terminated upon returning to his company's headquarters, and Frank was offered the branch manager position. Allegedly, he responded by submitting his resignation letter. He moved on to another security firm overseas, and the last I heard, he had been in France for nearly a year. Our site supervisor was reassigned to a different facility, but he is still with the company as far as I know. We genuinely enjoy working for the client, and the 4 of us have become great friends. We all share similar shifts, enabling us to gather at a bar every Friday evening to unwind. We have also developed a good rapport with the client, who invites us over to his home for special occasions. Thanks to my job, I was able to save my relationship, enjoy wonderful vacations, purchase a brand new at the time, Chevrolet Silverado, and buy a house. So, to sum it all up, do not underestimate the security guard. Story 4. Cruise fun turned sour as my girlfriend got wildly drunk, danced with others, then denied her actions, leaving me questioning everything. I, a 26-year-old man, recently went on a cruise with my girlfriend, who is 28, and her family. We have been in a relationship for approximately 6 years. Overall, the majority of the cruise was enjoyable, apart from a few minor occurrences. We had purchased a drink package, which led me to make several friends, while my girlfriend also made a few acquaintances. However, the friends my girlfriend had made enjoyed drinking quite a bit. They were also significantly taller and heavier than she was. To cut a long story short, my girlfriend became more intoxicated than was wise. She would not listen to my attempts to advise her to slow down and manage her consumption, and instead became upset with me. Fast forward to the final night of the cruise, and we find ourselves in the nightclub. My girlfriend was the most intoxicated she had been throughout the trip, and for reasons unknown, she started exhibiting very aggressive behavior towards me. I tried to pull her aside to discuss what was happening, but she simply gave me disdainful looks, made rude comments, and then walked away. As an aside, the expression in her eyes when she spoke to me was reminiscent of a look I had witnessed only once before, years ago at a party we attended. To avoid digressing into excessive detail, the essential point is that my girlfriend had promised she would never behave in such a manner again. The situation escalated when she invited me to dance, but proceeded to dance with other men in front of me, as well as approach men at the bar to ask them for drinks, even though we shared a drink package. I reached my breaking point and walked away to get a drink and chat with some friends I had made. I did not pay attention to her actions after that, so I cannot comment on how far she went to instigate my frustration. At that moment, I resolved that if she wanted to act recklessly and jeopardize our relationship, I would not intervene, as I should not have to prevent her from making such choices. While I was at the bar, a girl with whom I had conversed briefly on the first day approached me to order her drink. My girlfriend had previously expressed displeasure at my interactions with this girl, believing I found her attractive. She was correct, but I never acknowledged it. Therefore, I only offered casual greetings until this girl walked up to me. I engaged her in conversation for a short while, and we connected quite well. She was very kind and pleasant. I learned that she resides merely 30 minutes away from me. After almost suggesting I ask for her number, we exchanged farewells as the nightclub was closing. She made a point to reiterate her name before hinting at finding her back home if I ever wanted to, with a smile before walking away. I interpreted this as a suggestion to perhaps connect on social media. I went to locate my girlfriend, who was across the club with her friends. We escorted her friends back to their room, as they were too intoxicated to manage it on their own. Eventually, we returned to our room. By this time, I was fairly drunk myself, and it was around 3 a.m., so I opted to postpone discussing the nightclub incident until the following day, as we had an early flight. The next day, I took my girlfriend aside in the airport and expressed my feelings about her behavior the previous night, conveying that I found it inappropriate. She effectively denied any wrongdoing and refused to apologize, instead attempting to shift the blame onto me by hurling insults. Hearing this transformed my anger into disappointment and hurt. As we were preparing to board our flight, I told her we needed to pause the conversation and that she needed to reflect on what had happened, because if that was her genuine response, I could not accept it. I listened to music during the flight, and the drive home was quite similar. Upon returning to our apartment, she brought up the issue again, and we ended up having a significant argument about it. She repeatedly denied everything, claiming she did not remember much of the night, insisting only she could know what she did or did not recall. In my view, only she could determine whether she was being completely honest about her memory or omitting details for her own advantage. I indicated that if she wanted to use that as her response, it did not really improve the situation. After several exchanges where I provided examples of her inappropriate behavior, which she either denied or claimed to have forgotten, she finally broke down in tears and apologized. However, her apology felt peculiar in a way I could not quite articulate, but I was so exhausted from being angry and had traveled back home that day, so I chose to smoke some cannabis, forgive her, and go to bed. The following day, it was back to the work routine, and during the initial days, I felt somewhat off and down. I assumed it was just the typical post-vacation blues and did not think too much about it. After a long workday midweek, I decided to purchase some beer to unwind and watch an NBA game. My girlfriend had a few drinks herself and suggested we look at Crew's photographs. After going through them, Out of nowhere, she began revisiting the last night of the cruise that we had argued about, accusing me of actions that never occurred. She claimed I was flirting with other women, or that I had sneaked off to meet other girls once she had fallen asleep. She specifically accused me of trying to cheat on her with the girl I had mentioned earlier that she disapproved of me talking to. I have never cheated on anyone and never would, as I believe it is one of the worst betrayals you can inflict, and I have told my girlfriend this on numerous occasions. My girlfriend effectively rescinded her earlier apology, shifting the blame onto me, the other girl, and all men in general. After much back and forth, I needed to go to sleep since I had to work early the next morning. I returned home from work the following day, and once again, we found ourselves in an identical argument. Before these fights, I felt as though I was beginning to move past everything and genuinely forgive her. However, after these exchanges, I began to feel different. In the days that followed, I started having thoughts like, maybe I should find that other girl, or perhaps I was supposed to talk to her, or maybe I should have asked for her number, or perhaps the events on that cruise ship were meant to convey a message. I have also become more irritable with my girlfriend in the evenings, often unsure if there was a specific trigger for my frustration. Additionally, I have realized that my girlfriend seems reluctant to admit her mistakes. She consistently finds ways to blame others, or even when she claims to acknowledge her faults, her admission tends to be cold and reluctant. This behavior has become increasingly tiring over the years. After this latest issue and the subsequent arguments, I feel as though I am exhausted and lack the energy to attempt to remedy the situation now. I suspect this could have been addressed, or at least put on the right path by now, if she had genuinely acknowledged her mistakes. A significant part of me is seriously contemplating reaching out to that other girl, as she suggested, to see if she would be interested in meeting up to talk, but even that idea feels close to infidelity to me. On the other hand, another part of me thinks it is all foolish, that my mind is simply muddled, and that I should just move on from everything. Yet every time I believe I am starting to forget or move on, I experience this strange feeling that I should seek out and speak to that girl. However, it is evident that if I were to pursue that route, I would likely be breaking up with my girlfriend. I am uncertain about how to navigate these thoughts any longer. I won't deceive you. I have basically resorted to smoking cannabis every evening after work in an effort to escape my thoughts, which is certainly not a healthy coping mechanism. Unfortunately, it is becoming less effective as I still think about everything while high. I am uncertain if I am seeking feedback or just attempting to express my feelings, but any advice is greatly appreciated nonetheless. Thank you all, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Summary: my girlfriend behaved poorly on a cruise, which led to multiple arguments and insufficient apologies. I became interested in another girl from the cruise who lives nearby, and now that I am home, I am experiencing conflicting emotions about how to proceed.